Dr. Marcus Chen sat at his desk on a Tuesday morning, drinking his third cup of coffee. He had been the chief of medicine at Riverside General Hospital for 5 years now. The job was demanding, but he loved it. He loved helping people and making sure the hospital ran smoothly. His assistant knocked on the door and walked in with a worried look on her face. "Dr. Chen, there's someone here to see you. It's Sarah Martinez from Patient Advocacy. She says it's urgent." Marcus looked up from his computer screen. Sarah was a good woman who worked hard to help patients when they had problems. If she said something was urgent, it usually was. "Send her in," he said. Sarah walked into the office carrying a thick folder. Her face was serious. She sat down across from Marcus and placed the folder on his desk. "Marcus, we have a problem. A serious one." Marcus felt his stomach tighten. "What's going on?" Sarah opened the folder and pulled out several papers. "A patient named Aisha Williams came to see me yesterday. She's 34 years old, a school teacher, and she almost died because of our hospital." "What happened?" Marcus asked, leaning forward. Sarah took a deep breath. 2 weeks ago, Aisha came to our emergency room. She was having bad chest pains. Really bad. She could barely breathe. She was scared and crying. The doctor who saw her was Dr. Robert Hutchinson. Marcus knew Dr. Hutchinson well. He had hired him 3 years ago. The man had excellent qualifications and came with great recommendations from his previous hospital. He was a good doctor, or so Marcus thought. Dr. Hutchinson examined her for about 10 minutes, Sarah continued. Then he told her she was probably just anxious. He said she was having a panic attack. He gave her some instructions to calm down and sent her home. Marcus frowned. "Just anxious? What about tests? What about her symptoms?" "That's the problem," Sarah said quietly. "He didn't run any real tests. He didn't do an EKG. He didn't check her cardiac enzymes, nothing. He just looked at her, decided she was anxious, and sent her home." Marcus felt anger rising in his chest. "That's not acceptable." "What happened next?" Sarah's voice became softer. "Aisha went home. She tried to rest like the doctor told her, but the pain got worse. 3 hours later, she collapsed in her kitchen. Her husband found her on the floor. He called 911 immediately." "Oh no," Marcus whispered. "The ambulance brought her back here. A different team of doctors was working. They ran the proper tests right away. Marcus, she was having a heart attack, a serious one. If her husband had found her even 10 minutes later, she might have died." Marcus felt sick. He pushed his coffee cup away. "A heart attack. And Hutchinson sent her home." "Yes," Sarah said. "The emergency team saved her life. She spent a week in the hospital. She had to have surgery. She's home now recovering, but she's angry, and she has every right to be." Marcus rubbed his face with his hands. "This is terrible. This is really terrible. Has anyone talked to Dr. Hutchinson about this?" "Not yet," Sarah said. "Aisha wanted to report it to me first. She wants answers. She wants to know why this happened to her." Marcus stood up and walked to the window. He looked out at the parking lot below. People were coming and going, trusting that the hospital would take care of them. "I'll investigate this personally," he said. "I'll talk to Hutchinson. I'll review everything." Sarah stood up too. "Marcus, there's something else. Something Aisha said that bothers me." "What is it?" "She said that Dr. Hutchinson barely listened to her. She said he seemed annoyed that she was there, and she said he kept talking about how young women often think they're having heart attacks when they're just stressed." Marcus turned around. "Young women can have heart attacks. It's rare, but it happens." "I know," Sarah said. "But Marcus, Aisha is black, and she said she felt like Dr. Hutchinson didn't believe her because of that. She said she felt like he looked at her and had already decided she was wasting his time." Marcus felt a cold chill run down his spine. "Are you saying this might be about race?" Sarah looked uncomfortable. "I don't know. I hope not. But Aisha feels that way, and her feelings matter. We need to take this seriously." Marcus nodded slowly. "I will, I promise you. I'll get to the bottom of this." "When can I meet with Aisha?" "She wants to meet with you tomorrow at 2 in the afternoon. "Is that okay?" "Yes," Marcus said. "I'll clear my schedule. And Sarah, thank you for bringing this to me." Sarah picked up her folder and walked to the door. She stopped and turned around. "Marcus, I've worked here for 12 years. I've seen doctors make mistakes. We all make mistakes sometimes. But something about this case feels different. Please look into it carefully." After Sarah left, Marcus sat back down at his desk. He pulled up Dr. Hutchinson's file on his computer. The man had a clean record. No major complaints. No problems with his medical license. His patient satisfaction scores were average, maybe a little below average, but nothing that raised red flags. Marcus thought back to when he had hired Hutchinson. The interview had gone well. Hutchinson was smart and confident. He had good experience. His references all said positive things. There had been no reason not to hire him, but now a patient had almost died. A young woman had been sent home with a heart attack because a doctor didn't believe her pain was real. Marcus picked up his phone and called the medical records department. "This is Dr. Chen. I need you to pull all of Dr. Hutchinson's patient files from the past 2 years. Every single one. I want to review them." The person on the other end of the phone sounded surprised. "All of them?" "Dr. Chen, that's hundreds of files." "I know," Marcus said, "but I need to see them." "This is important. How soon can you get them to me?" "I'll have them ready by tomorrow morning." "Thank you," Marcus said and hung up. He sat in his office for a long time, thinking. He hoped this was just one mistake. Doctors were human. They made errors in judgment sometimes. Maybe Hutchinson had just been having a bad day. Maybe he had been tired or distracted. But something in his gut told him this was bigger than one mistake. Sarah's words kept echoing in his mind. Something about this case feels different. Marcus looked at the clock. It was only 11 in the morning, but he already felt exhausted. He had a patient to meet tomorrow. A woman who had almost died in his hospital. He had hundreds of files to review, and he had to figure out if one of his doctors had failed someone because of the color of her skin. He thought about Aisha Williams, lying on her kitchen floor, her heart failing, while her husband frantically called for help. He thought about how scared she must have been. He thought about how she had come to the hospital for help and been turned away. Marcus made a promise to himself right then. He would find out the truth. Whatever it was, no matter how uncomfortable it made him, he would face it. Aisha Williams deserved answers, and if something was really wrong, he would fix it. He just hoped he was ready for what he might discover. The next morning, Marcus arrived at his office 2 hours early. Large boxes filled with patient files sat waiting for him. He had asked his assistant to cancel all his meetings for the day. He needed time to go through these records carefully. Marcus started with the most recent files and worked backward. At first, everything seemed normal. Dr. Hutchinson treated patients for various problems. Some got better quickly, others needed more time. Nothing seemed unusual. But then Marcus noticed something strange. He pulled out a file for a patient named James Wright, a 42-year-old black man who had come to the emergency room 6 months ago. James had complained of severe headaches and confusion. Dr. Hutchinson's note said the patient appeared intoxicated and smelled of alcohol. Hutchinson had given him some pain medication and sent him home with instructions to stop drinking. Marcus flipped through the pages. 2 days later, James Wright was back at the hospital, brought in by ambulance. He had suffered a stroke. The other doctors who treated him noted that he showed no signs of alcohol use. In fact, James Wright didn't drink at all. He was a recovering alcoholic who had been sober for 10 years. Marcus felt his hand start to shake. He set that file aside and kept reading. Another file caught his attention. Keisha Johnson, a 16-year-old black girl, had come in with severe stomach pain. Dr. Hutchinson's notes described her as dramatic and drug-seeking behavior. He wrote that teenage patients often exaggerated pain to get prescription medication. He gave her nothing for the pain and told her mother to take her home. 4 hours later, Keisha was in surgery. Her appendix had burst. She spent 2 weeks in the hospital recovering from a serious infection. The surgeon's notes criticized the delay in treatment, saying it had made everything much worse. Marcus stood up from his desk and walked around his office. His heart was pounding. This couldn't be happening, not in his hospital. He forced himself to sit back down and keep reading. File after file, a pattern began to appear. Black patients, especially black women and teenagers, received different care from Dr. Hutchinson. Their pain was dismissed. Their symptoms were questioned. They were accused of lying or exaggerating or seeking drugs. But the white patients in the files told a different story. A white woman came in with chest pain similar to Aisha Williams. Dr. Hutchinson immediately ordered a full cardiac workup. A white teenager with stomach pain got immediate tests and treatment. A white man with a headache received a CT scan within an hour. Marcus felt sick to his stomach. He had been a doctor for 20 years. He had seen many things, but this was different. This wasn't just bad medicine. This was something much worse. He picked up his phone and called Sarah Martinez. "Sarah, it's Marcus. Can you come to my office? I need to show you something." Sarah arrived 15 minutes later. Marcus had spread out several files on his desk. "Look at these," he said, his voice tight with anger. Sarah read through the files carefully. Her face grew more and more troubled. When she finished, she looked up at Marcus with tears in her eyes. "Oh my God," she whispered. "I've been going through files all morning," Marcus said. "I found at least 15 cases like this. 15 black patients who received substandard care from Dr. Hutchinson. Some of them could have died." "What are you going to do?" Sarah asked. Marcus sat down heavily in his chair. "I have to confront him. I have to ask him why this happened." "Marcus," Sarah said carefully, "are you ready for what he might say?" Marcus looked at her. "What do you mean?" "I mean, are you ready to hear that one of your doctors, someone you hired, someone you trusted, is a racist?" The word hung in the air between them. Racist. Marcus had been avoiding that word all morning, even in his own thoughts. But Sarah was right. That's what this was. "I hired him," Marcus said quietly. 3 years ago I interviewed him. I checked his references. I brought him to this hospital. And now I find out he's been hurting people. Black people. People who came here for help. "You didn't know," Sarah said gently. "But I should have known," Marcus said, his voice rising. "That's my job, to know. To protect patients. And I didn't. Do you know why? Because I didn't look. I didn't pay attention." He stood up and started pacing again. "I remember now. About a year ago, one of the nurses, Angela Thompson, she's black, she came to me. She said she was concerned about Dr. Hutchinson. She said he seemed to treat black patients differently. And you know what I did? I told her that Hutchinson was just direct in his manner. I told her that some doctors have different styles. I dismissed her concerns. Sarah didn't say anything. She just watched him." "I dismissed her," Marcus repeated. "A black nurse came to me with concerns about racism, and I told her she was wrong." "What does that make me?" "It makes you human," Sarah said. "It makes you someone who made a mistake. But now you know. Now you can fix it." Marcus looked at the files spread across his desk. "These are people's lives. Aisha Williams almost died. James Wright had a stroke. Keisha Johnson's appendix burst. All because I didn't listen." He picked up his phone again. "I'm calling Dr. Hutchinson. He needs to come to my office today." "Are you sure you're ready?" Sarah asked. Marcus nodded. "I have to be. I'm meeting with Aisha this afternoon. I need to have answers for her." After Sarah left, Marcus made the call. Dr. Hutchinson answered on the third ring. "Hutchinson here. Robert, this is Marcus Chen. I need you to come to my office at 4 o'clock today. It's important." There was a pause on the other end. "Is something wrong?" "We need to talk about some patient cases." 4 o'clock. "Don't be late." Marcus hung up before Hutchinson could ask more questions. He looked at the clock. It was almost 2. Aisha Williams would be here soon. He spent the next hour preparing. He reviewed Aisha's file again. He made notes. He tried to figure out what to say to a woman who had almost died because his hospital had failed her. At exactly 2 o'clock, his assistant knocked on the door. "Dr. Chen, Ms. Williams is here. Send her in, please." Aisha Williams walked into his office. She was smaller than Marcus had expected, maybe 5 feet 4 inches tall. She wore jeans and a simple sweater. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail. She looked tired, but her eyes were strong. She looked directly at Marcus as she walked in. This was not a woman who would be easily dismissed again. "Ms. Williams," Marcus said, standing up and extending his hand. "Thank you for coming. Please sit down." Aisha shook his hand and sat in the chair across from his desk. She didn't smile. She just waited. Marcus sat down too. "First, I want to apologize. What happened to you should never have happened. You came to our hospital for help and we failed you." "I failed you." "Yes, you did," Aisha said simply. Marcus nodded. "You're right. And I want to explain what I've been doing since I heard about your case. I've been reviewing Dr. Hutchinson's patient files. All of them." Aisha leaned forward slightly. "And what did you find?" Marcus took a deep breath. "I found that you weren't the only one. I found other patients, other black patients who received inadequate care from Dr. Hutchinson." Aisha's eyes widened. "Other people? How many?" At least 15 cases that I've found so far. And I'm not done reviewing files yet. Aisha sat back in her chair. She was quiet for a long moment. So it wasn't just me, she finally said. It wasn't just in my head. No, Marcus said. It wasn't in your head. You were right. Dr. Hutchinson treated you differently, and I believe it was because of your race. Tears started running down Aisha's face. Do you know how that feels? To think you're dying, to go to a hospital for help and to have a doctor look at you like you're nothing, like you're lying, like your pain doesn't matter. Marcus felt his own eyes getting wet. I can't imagine. I'm so sorry. Aisha wiped her tears away. What are you going to do about it? I'm meeting with Dr. Hutchinson in 2 hours. I'm going to confront him with what I've found. And then I'm taking this to the hospital board. This has to stop. Will he be fired? Aisha asked. I don't know yet, Marcus said honestly. But I promise you I will do everything in my power to make sure he never hurts another patient. Aisha stood up. I almost died, Dr. Chen. I have a husband. I have students who depend on me. I almost left them all behind because a doctor didn't think my life was worth his time. I know, Marcus said, and I will make this right. I promise you. After Aisha left, Marcus sat alone in his office. The afternoon sun was coming through the windows. In 2 hours, he would confront Dr. Hutchinson. He would have to look a man he had trusted and ask him why he had hurt so many people. Marcus was scared. He was angry, but most of all, he was determined. This was going to end today. At exactly 4 o'clock, Dr. Robert Hutchinson knocked on Marcus's door. He walked in with a confident smile. He was a tall man in his late 40s with gray hair at his temples. He wore an expensive suit under his white doctor's coat. Marcus, he said cheerfully, you said you wanted to see me? Marcus gestured to the chair. Sit down, Robert. We need to talk. Hutchinson sat down, still smiling, but his smile faded when he saw Marcus's face. Is something wrong? Marcus pulled out a stack of files and placed them on the desk between them. I've been reviewing your patient cases from the past 2 years. Okay, Hutchinson said slowly. Why? Do you remember a patient named Aisha Williams? She came to the ER 2 weeks ago with chest pains. Hutchinson thought for a moment. Vaguely. Young woman. She was anxious. She wasn't anxious, Marcus said, his voice hard. She was having a heart attack. You sent her home. She collapsed 3 hours later and almost died. Hutchinson's face changed. The confidence disappeared. I examined her. She seemed fine. Sometimes these things happen. No, Marcus said. These things don't just happen. You didn't run proper tests. You didn't do an EKG. You looked at her for 10 minutes and decided she was wasting your time. That's not fair, Hutchinson said. I make judgment calls every day. Sometimes I'm wrong. That's medicine. Marcus opened another file. Let's talk about James Wright. You said he was drunk. You sent him home. He had a stroke. Hutchinson shifted in his chair. He smelled like alcohol. He didn't drink, Marcus said. He had been sober for 10 years. But you assumed he was drunk. Why? I made a mistake, Hutchinson said. His voice was getting defensive. Marcus opened another file. Keisha Johnson, 16 years old. Burst appendix. You said she was drug-seeking. Young people do seek drugs sometimes. She wasn't, Marcus said. He kept pulling out files one after another. Marcus Brown, Tanya Edwards, David Lee, Angela Martinez. Should I keep going? Because I have more. I have 15 files here, Robert. 15 patients who received inadequate care from you. Hutchinson stood up. Wait a minute. You're going through my patients? Looking for mistakes? Every doctor makes mistakes. Sit down, Marcus said firmly. I'm not finished. Hutchinson sat back down, but his face was red with anger. These aren't random mistakes, Marcus continued. Do you know what all these patients have in common? They're all black, every single one of them. The room went silent. Hutchinson stared at Marcus. What are you saying? I'm saying you treated black patients differently. You dismissed their pain. You questioned their symptoms. You accused them of lying or seeking drugs. Meanwhile, your white patients with the same symptoms got proper care. Hutchinson's jaw tightened. That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. I treat all my patients the same. Marcus slid the files across the desk. The evidence says otherwise. Look at these. Read your own notes. You wrote that Aisha was probably anxious. You wrote that James appeared intoxicated. You wrote that Keisha was dramatic. These are your words, Hutchinson glanced at the files but didn't touch them. I wrote what I observed. Did you? Marcus asked. Or did you see black patients and make assumptions before you even examined them? I don't have to listen to this, Hutchinson said, starting to stand up again. Yes, you do, Marcus said, his voice rising. You work for this hospital. You work for me. And I'm telling you that your treatment of black patients is unacceptable. Hutchinson sat back down, but his face showed pure anger now. You're seeing patterns that don't exist. You're looking for racism where there isn't any. Am I? Marcus asked. Then explain this to me. Explain why a white woman with chest pains gets a full cardiac workup in an hour, but Aisha Williams gets sent home. Explain that. Maybe the white woman had different symptoms. She didn't, Marcus said, pulling out another file. I checked. Her symptoms were nearly identical. But you took her seriously. You just didn't take Aisha seriously. Hutchinson leaned back in his chair and crossed his arms. You want me to say something I didn't do? You want me to admit to being a racist? I'm not going to do that because it's not true. Then help me understand, Marcus said, trying to control his anger. Help me understand why this pattern exists. Hutchinson was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke, and his words made Marcus's blood run cold. Fine, Hutchinson said. You want the truth? Black patients are more difficult. They're less compliant with medical advice. They have higher pain tolerances, so when they say something hurts, it's usually not as bad as they claim. They're more likely to seek drugs. These are facts. Marcus felt like he had been punched in the stomach. Those are not facts. Those are racist stereotypes. They're based on my experience, Hutchinson said. I've been a doctor for 20 years. I know what I see. What you see is filtered through your bias, Marcus said. You see black patients and you make assumptions. Those assumptions lead to bad care. Those assumptions almost killed Aisha Williams. Hutchinson shook his head. You're twisting everything. I'm a good doctor. I save lives. You put lives at risk, Marcus said, and I can't allow that to continue. I'm requiring you to complete comprehensive bias training, starting next week. Hutchinson laughed. It was a cold, bitter sound. Bias training? You think sitting in a room for a few hours is going to change anything? It's a start, Marcus said. Hutchinson leaned forward, and for the first time, Marcus saw real anger in his eyes. Let me tell you something, Marcus. You can make me sit through your diversity seminar. You can make me fill out forms and watch videos, but you can't change reality. You can't change what I know to be true from years of experience. Your experience is wrong, Marcus said. Is it? Hutchinson asked. He stood up and walked toward the door. Or are you just too politically correct to admit the truth? You hired me because I'm a good doctor. My patient outcomes are fine. Better than fine. Your patient outcomes for white patients are fine, Marcus corrected. Your black patients have significantly worse outcomes. And that's not acceptable. Hutchinson turned around at the door. You know what I think? I think you're scared. I think someone complained. Probably that Williams woman, and now you're panicking. You're looking for a scapegoat. Well, I'm not it. This isn't about scapegoats, Marcus said, standing up. This is about patient safety. This is about treating all patients with equal care and respect. Hutchinson smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. Good luck with that. Good luck trying to prove something that doesn't exist. And good luck finding another doctor with my qualifications who wants to work in this city. He walked out, letting the door slam behind him. Marcus stood alone in his office, shaking. The conversation had gone even worse than he feared. Hutchinson hadn't just denied the racism. He had defended it. He had tried to justify it with false claims about black patients. Marcus sat back down and put his head in his hands. He thought about all the medical school classes he had taken, all the training about being a good doctor. No one had ever taught him what to do when he discovered one of his own doctors was actively harming patients because of their race. He picked up his phone and called the hospital's legal department. This is Dr. Chen. I need to schedule an emergency meeting with the hospital board. Tomorrow morning. It's urgent. After he hung up, Marcus looked at the files still spread across his desk. 15 patients. 15 people who had suffered because he hadn't paid attention. Because he hadn't listened when Nurse Angela Thompson had tried to warn him. He thought about Hutchinson's words. You can make me sit through your diversity seminar, but you can't change reality. That statement terrified Marcus more than anything else, because it meant Hutchinson truly believed what he was saying. He believed black patients deserved less care. And if he believed it that strongly, Would any amount of training change his mind? Marcus knew what he had to do. He had to take this to the board. He had to fight to have Hutchinson removed from the hospital. But he also knew it wouldn't be easy. Hutchinson was right about one thing. He had good qualifications. He brought in revenue. The hospital board might not want to lose him, but Marcus didn't care. He thought about Aisha Williams lying on her kitchen floor, her heart failing. He thought about James Wright, having a stroke because a doctor thought he was drunk. He thought about young Keisha Johnson, her appendix bursting while a doctor dismissed her pain. He couldn't let this continue. He wouldn't let this continue. Marcus stood up and walked to the window. The sun was setting over the city. Somewhere out there were patients who trusted this hospital, patients who believed they would receive good care regardless of who they were or what they looked like. Marcus had made them a promise when he became chief of medicine. He had promised to protect them, and he had broken that promise, but he would fix it, no matter what it cost him. No matter how hard the fight became, he would fix it. The next morning, Marcus would face the hospital board. He would present his evidence. He would fight for what was right, but tonight he sat in his office and prepared. He organized the files. He wrote notes. He built his case because tomorrow the real battle would begin. The hospital board met in a large conference room on the top floor. 7 people sat around a long table. Marcus stood at the front with a projector, ready to present his findings. His hands were sweating, but his voice was steady. The board chairman, Gerald Thompson, looked at his watch. Dr. Chen, we have a busy morning. Please proceed with your presentation. Marcus took a deep breath. Thank you for meeting on short notice. What I'm about to show you is serious. Very serious. He clicked to the first slide. It showed Aisha Williams's case, the timeline from her first ER visit to her collapse at home to her emergency surgery. This is Aisha Williams. She's 34 years old. She's a teacher. 2 weeks ago, she came to our emergency room having a heart attack. Our doctor sent her home without proper tests. She almost died. Carol Henderson, the hospital administrator, leaned forward. Which doctor? Dr. Robert Hutchinson, Marcus said. A few board members nodded. They knew the name. Hutchinson had been with the hospital for 3 years. Marcus clicked to the next slide. At first, I thought this was an isolated incident, a terrible mistake. But then I investigated further. He showed them the other cases. James Wright, Keisha Johnson, all the others. With each case, he explained what had happened. He showed them Hutchinson's notes. He showed them the pattern. These are 15 patients, Marcus said. 15 black patients who received substandard care from Dr. Hutchinson. Meanwhile, white patients with similar symptoms received proper treatment. The room was silent. Some board members looked uncomfortable. Others looked skeptical. Board member Richard Santos spoke first. Dr. Chen, these are serious accusations. Are you certain this is about race and not just coincidental? Marcus had expected this question. I compared Dr. Hutchinson's treatment of white patients versus black patients with the same symptoms. The difference in care is clear and consistent. This isn't coincidence. Gerald Thompson tapped his pen on the table. What did Dr. Hutchinson say when you confronted him? Marcus chose his words carefully. He denied any racial bias, but he also said things that deeply concerned me. He claimed black patients are more difficult and less honest about their pain. He justified his different treatment. Carol Henderson closed her eyes. Oh no, what do you recommend we do? Asked board member Lisa Park. I recommend we suspend Dr. Hutchinson immediately, Marcus said, pending a full investigation. And we need to report this to the state medical board. The room erupted. Several board members started talking at once. Wait, Gerald said, holding up his hand. Let's slow down here. Suspension is a serious step. People almost died, Marcus said, his voice rising. People could have died because of his bias. How is that not serious enough? Carol Henderson looked worried. Marcus, I understand your concern, but we need to think about the legal implications here. If we suspend Hutchinson without absolute proof, he could sue the hospital. We have proof, Marcus said, pointing to the screen. 15 cases of proof. But we don't have proof of intent, Richard Santos said. Different treatment doesn't necessarily mean intentional racism. It could be unconscious bias. It could be other factors. Marcus felt his anger rising. Does it matter if it was intentional? The result is the same. Patients were harmed. Board member David Wu spoke up. He was the hospital's financial officer. There's another issue we need to consider. Dr. Hutchinson runs a successful specialty practice. He generates significant revenue for this hospital. If we lose him, we lose that income. Marcus couldn't believe what he was hearing. Are you saying we should keep a doctor who endangers black patients because he makes money? I'm saying we need to consider all aspects, David said defensively. This hospital has a budget. We have employees to pay. We have equipment to buy. Money matters. Lives matter more, Marcus said firmly. Gerald Thompson held up his hand again. Everyone calm down. Let's think about this rationally. Dr. Chen, you said Hutchinson denied the accusations.
Has he shown any willingness to change?
Marcus thought about their conversation, about Hutchinson's cold smile, about his words, "You can't change reality." No, Marcus said quietly. He defended his behavior. He believes what he's doing is justified. Lisa Park shifted in her seat. What about compromise? What if we require extensive training? Bias education? Supervision? I already suggested training, Marcus said. He essentially told me it wouldn't change anything. Carol Henderson looked at the other board members. We need to consider our public image. If this gets out, if the media learns that we knew about this and did nothing, it could destroy the hospital's reputation. If we fire him incorrectly, he could sue us for millions, David Wu added. And he has connections. His brother-in-law is Judge Patterson. His wife's family has donated a lot of money to this hospital. Marcus felt sick. They were more worried about money and lawsuits than about patient safety. Let me be very clear, Marcus said slowly. If we don't take action, I will resign, and I will go public with what I found. The room went silent again. Gerald Thompson stared at Marcus. That's quite a threat, Dr. Chen. It's not a threat, Marcus said. It's a promise. I became chief of medicine to protect patients. If this board won't help me do that, then I can't work here anymore. Carol Henderson rubbed her temples. Let's not be hasty. Nobody wants you to resign, Marcus. We just need to find the right solution. The right solution is removing Dr. Hutchinson, Marcus said. What if we suspend him with pay while we investigate? Lisa Park suggested. That way he's not seeing patients, but we're not firing him yet. We can take time to build a proper case. Richard Santos nodded. That seems reasonable. It protects patients while also protecting the hospital legally. Marcus wanted to argue. Hutchinson didn't deserve to be paid while suspended. But he could see he wasn't going to get everything he wanted. Fine, he said. But the investigation needs to be thorough. And it needs to be fast. Agreed, Gerald said. All in favor of suspending Dr. Hutchinson with pay pending investigation? 6 hands went up. 1 person abstained, David Wu, the financial officer. Motion passes, Gerald said. Dr. Chen, you'll inform Dr. Hutchinson today. Carol, you'll handle the legal paperwork. As the board members stood to leave, Marcus felt both relief and frustration. He had won a small victory. Hutchinson would be suspended. But it wasn't enough. And he could tell some board members weren't fully committed to doing the right thing. David Wu stopped by Marcus on his way out. I hope you know what you're doing, he said quietly. You just made a powerful enemy. Hutchinson won't take this lying down. After everyone left, Carol Henderson stayed behind. Marcus, can we talk? Sure, Marcus said, gathering his papers. Carol looked uncomfortable. I want you to know I believe you. About the racism. About the pattern you found. But the board is scared. They're scared of lawsuits. They're scared of bad publicity. They're scared of losing donors. So they're willing to compromise patient safety? Marcus asked bitterly. No, Carol said. But they're also trying to keep this hospital running. It's not black and white. Actually, it is, Marcus said. Either we protect all our patients equally or we don't. There's no middle ground. Carol sighed. I wish it were that simple. But nothing in hospital administration is simple. After Carol left, Marcus sat alone in the conference room. He had won the suspension, but he could already tell the real fight was just beginning. His phone buzzed. It was a text from Sarah Martinez. How did it go? Marcus typed back. Suspended with pay. Not enough, but it's something. His phone buzzed again almost immediately. Be careful. Word is spreading, Marcus frowned. What did that mean? He gathered his things and headed back to his office. When he arrived, his assistant looked worried. Dr. Chen, you have messages. A lot of messages. From who? Other doctors. They want to talk to you about Dr. Hutchinson. Marcus's heart sank. Of course, news traveled fast in a hospital. Everyone probably already knew about the suspension. Send them in one at a time, Marcus said. Over the next 3 hours, 7 doctors came to see Marcus. Their responses varied wildly. Dr. Patricia Lee, a cardiologist, thanked him. "I've noticed issues with Hutchinson's black patients before," she said, "but I didn't know how to report it. I'm glad you're doing something." But Dr. Michael Brooks was angry. "You're throwing Hutchinson under the bus for political correctness," he said. "He's a good doctor. Everyone makes mistakes." 15 cases isn't mistakes, Marcus replied. "It's a pattern." Dr. Brooks shook his head. "You're going to destroy a man's career over nothing." After he left, Marcus felt exhausted. The hospital was dividing. Some supported his actions. Others thought he was overreacting. His phone rang. It was Angela Thompson, the nurse who had warned him about Hutchinson a year ago. "Dr. Chen, can I come see you?" she asked. Of course. Angela arrived 10 minutes later. She was a black woman in her 40s, a nurse who had worked at the hospital for 15 years. She sat down across from Marcus. "I heard about the suspension." "Thank you." "I should be thanking you," Marcus said. "You tried to warn me a year ago. I didn't listen." "I'm sorry." Angela nodded slowly.
Do you know how hard it was to come to you?
"To report a doctor? Especially as a black woman reporting concerns about racism? I can't imagine," Marcus said. "And when you dismissed my concerns, I felt so small," Angela continued. "I felt like maybe I was crazy. Maybe I was seeing things that weren't there." "You weren't crazy," Marcus said. "You were right. And I was wrong." Angela wiped her eyes. "I need you to know something. This isn't just Hutchinson. He's the worst, yes. But there are others. Other doctors who treat black patients differently. Other staff who make assumptions. This problem is bigger than one doctor." Marcus felt the weight of her words. "I know, but I have to start somewhere." "Just promise me you won't stop," Angela said. "Promise me this isn't the end. That you'll keep fighting." "I promise," Marcus said. After Angela left, Marcus looked out his window at the city below. He had started something today. Something big. Something that was already dividing his hospital and making enemies. But Angela was right. He couldn't stop now. He had to keep fighting. For Aisha Williams. For James Wright. For Keisha Johnson. For all the patients who had been failed, even if it cost him everything. Aisha Williams sat in her living room scrolling through her phone. Her chest still hurt sometimes, especially when she moved too fast. The surgery scar under her shirt reminded her every day how close she had come to dying. Her husband, David, walked in from the kitchen with 2 cups of tea. "You should rest," he said gently. "I've been resting for 2 weeks," Aisha said. "I'm tired of resting." David sat down next to her. "What are you looking at?" "The hospital's website," Aisha said, looking at Dr. Hutchinson's page. "He's still listed as staff. Dr. Chen said he would handle it," David reminded her. "I know," Aisha said, "but I don't know if I trust them. They almost let me die." Her phone rang. It was a number she didn't recognize. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Hello, Ms. Williams? This is Jennifer Park from the legal firm Park & Associates. I specialize in medical malpractice and civil rights cases. I saw the complaint you filed with patient advocacy. I'd like to talk to you about your case." Aisha sat up straighter. "How did you get my number?" "It's public record once you file a complaint," Jennifer said. "Ms. Williams, from what I've read, you have a strong case. Not just for malpractice, but for discrimination. I'd like to help you." Aisha looked at David. He nodded. "Okay," she said. "Let's talk." 2 days later, Aisha sat in Jennifer's office. The lawyer was a young woman with sharp eyes and a determined expression. "Tell me everything," Jennifer said. "Start from the beginning." Aisha told her story. About the chest pains. About going to the emergency room. About Dr. Hutchinson barely looking at her before deciding she was just anxious. About collapsing at home. About the surgery. About almost dying. Jennifer took notes the whole time. When Aisha finished, the lawyer looked up. "Ms. Williams, you're not the first person to come to me with concerns about this hospital. I've been tracking complaints for months, but yours is the most serious. You almost died, so what can we do?" Aisha asked. "We can sue for medical malpractice," Jennifer said. "But I think we should do more. I think we should file a civil rights complaint. Because this wasn't just bad medicine. This was discrimination. Aisha thought about it. If we do that, it will be public, won't it? Yes, Jennifer said. Very public. The media will cover it. People will know your name. Are you ready for that? Aisha remembered lying on her kitchen floor, unable to breathe, thinking she was going to die. She remembered Dr. Hutchinson's dismissive face. She remembered feeling invisible. Yes, she said firmly. I'm ready. If I don't speak up, this will happen to someone else. Maybe next time they won't survive. Jennifer smiled. Good. Let's get started. Over the next week, Jennifer worked fast. She filed the lawsuit. She contacted the media. She wrote press releases. On Monday morning, the story broke. It was on the local news first, then it spread. Teacher almost dies after hospital dismisses her heart attack, read one headline. Did racism nearly kill this woman? Asked another. Aisha's phone started ringing constantly. News stations wanted interviews. Newspapers wanted quotes. Social media exploded. That afternoon, a local TV station sent a reporter to Aisha's house. She had thought about what to say. She had practiced. But when the camera turned on, the words came naturally. I went to that hospital because I was dying, Aisha said, looking directly at the camera. I knew something was seriously wrong. But Dr. Hutchinson looked at my black face and decided my pain wasn't real. He decided I was wasting his time, and he sent me home to die. The reporter asked, well, what do you want to happen now? I want Dr. Hutchinson to never treat another patient, Aisha said. And I want the hospital to admit what happened. To admit that racism almost killed me, because if they don't admit it, they can't fix it. The interview aired that evening. By midnight, it had been viewed over 1 million times online. People started sharing their own stories. A woman named Maria wrote about how a doctor accused her of exaggerating her pain because she was Latina. A man named John wrote about being treated like he was stupid because he was black. Dozens, then hundreds, then thousands of people shared similar experiences. Someone started a hashtag, Believe Black Patients. It trended on Twitter within hours. Marcus Chen saw the news coverage from his office. He watched Aisha's interview 3 times. Each time he felt more ashamed. This woman had almost died because he hadn't protected her. His phone rang. It was Gerald Thompson from the hospital board. Have you seen the news? Gerald asked. His voice was tight with stress. Yes, Marcus said. This is a disaster. An absolute disaster. We have protesters outside the hospital. The phone lines are jammed with angry calls. Donors are asking questions. Then we should give them answers, Marcus said. We should admit what happened and commit to fixing it. The legal team says we shouldn't admit anything, Gerald said. Admissions can be used against us in court. Marcus felt his anger rising again. So we're more worried about the lawsuit than about doing the right thing? We're worried about the hospital surviving, Gerald snapped. If we lose this case, we could be bankrupt. Then we can't help any patients. If we don't address the racism in this hospital, we'll lose something more important than money. Marcus said. We'll lose trust. Gerald was quiet for a moment. The board is meeting tomorrow morning. Emergency session. Be there. The next day, protesters gathered outside Riverside General Hospital. They carried signs that said, Black Lives Matter and Believe Black Patients and Fire Racist Doctors. Inside, the board met again. This time the mood was different. They were scared. Marcus could see it on their faces. This has gotten out of control, David Wu said. We're losing patients. Other hospitals are using this against us in advertising. Maybe that's good, Marcus said. Maybe we need pressure to do the right thing. Carol Henderson looked tired. She had bags under her eyes. I got a call from the state medical board this morning. They're opening an investigation. And the Department of Health and Human Services is asking questions too. This could trigger a federal civil rights investigation. Several board members looked shocked. A federal investigation could result in huge fines. It could even result in the hospital losing funding. Gerald Thompson rubbed his face. How did we get here? We got here by not listening, Marcus said. By caring more about money than patients. By protecting a doctor who was hurting people. What do you suggest we do? Lisa Park asked. I suggest we fire Dr. Hutchinson immediately, Marcus said. We apologize publicly. We commit to real changes, and we mean it. If we fire him now, it looks like we're caving to public pressure, Richard Santos said. We are caving to public pressure, Marcus said. And that's okay. Because the public is right. Carol Henderson looked at the other board members. Marcus is right. We can't hide from this anymore. We need to take action. Real action. David Wu shook his head. If we fire Hutchinson, he'll sue. His brother-in-law is a judge, remember? We could be in court for years. Let him sue, Marcus said. I'd rather fight him in court than explain to another family why their loved one died because we protected a racist doctor. The board voted. This time it was 5-2 in favor of termination. Dr. Robert Hutchinson would be fired, not just suspended, but the meeting wasn't over. Carol spoke again. We need to reach out to Ms. Williams. We need to apologize. The lawyers say we shouldn't talk to her, David Wu warned. I don't care what the lawyers say, Marcus said. That woman almost died. She deserves an apology. That afternoon, Marcus called Aisha. Ms. Williams, this is Dr. Chen. I wanted to let you know that the board voted to terminate Dr. Hutchinson's employment. He's been fired. There was silence on the other end. Then Aisha spoke, her voice thick with emotion. Thank you. I also want to apologize, Marcus said. Not just for what happened to you, but for not protecting you sooner. For not listening when people tried to warn me. I failed you and I'm sorry. What happens now? Aisha asked. Now we fix things, Marcus said. We're going to make real changes. I don't know if that makes up for what happened to you, but I promise we're going to try. That evening, Aisha sat with her lawyer, Jennifer, watching the news. The hospital had released a statement. They admitted that Aisha had received inadequate care. They admitted there were problems with how black patients were treated. They committed to making changes. Is this enough? Aisha asked. Jennifer considered. It's a start, but we need to watch them. Make sure they follow through. Words are easy. Actions are harder, Aisha nodded. She thought about all the people who had shared their stories online. All the people who had suffered in silence for so long. I want to do more, Aisha said suddenly. I want to help make sure this doesn't happen to others. What do you mean? Jennifer asked. I don't know exactly, Aisha said, but I've been given a second chance at life. I need to use it for something important. Over the next week, Aisha recovered more of her strength. She started responding to the messages people sent her. She started connecting with other patients who had similar experiences. She created a support group online for people who had faced medical discrimination. Within days, hundreds of people joined. They shared their stories. They supported each other. They organized. One woman, Patricia, wrote about how 3 different doctors dismissed her pain before she was finally diagnosed with cancer. A man named Marcus wrote about being accused of seeking drugs when he actually had a kidney stone. A mother named Susan wrote about her child being treated differently because of his race. Aisha read every story, and with each one, her resolve grew stronger. She reached out to Marcus Chen. I want to help, she said. I want to be part of making the hospital better. How? Marcus asked. I want to be on a patient advisory board, Aisha said. I want to help train doctors. I want to make sure no one else goes through what I went through. Marcus smiled. It was the first time he had smiled in weeks. I think that's a wonderful idea. But not everyone was happy about the changes. Dr. Hutchinson, now fired, gave his own interview to a conservative news channel. I'm the victim here, he said. I'm being destroyed by political correctness. I treated that woman exactly as I would treat any patient. This is a witch hunt. When Aisha saw the interview, she felt angry, but she also felt something else. Determination. He still doesn't get it, she told David. He still thinks he did nothing wrong. Some people never learn, David said. Then we have to teach everyone else, Aisha said. We have to make sure the next generation of doctors is different. That night, Aisha couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about everything that had happened. She had almost died, but she had survived. And now she had a purpose. She got up and wrote a blog post. She titled it, What Happens When Your Doctor Doesn't Believe You. She wrote about her experience, about the fear, about the pain, about feeling invisible. But she also wrote about hope, about change, about fighting back. She posted it online. Within hours, it had thousands of shares. Within days, it had been read by millions. Aisha Williams had found her voice, and she was going to use it to change things. 3 months had passed since Dr. Robert Hutchinson was fired from Riverside General Hospital. The news had faded from the headlines, but the work was just beginning. Marcus Chen stood in front of a room filled with doctors, nurses, and staff. It was the first day of mandatory bias training. He had fought hard for this program, working with experts to create something meaningful, not just a checkbox exercise. I know some of you don't want to be here, Marcus said, looking around the room. Some of you think this is a waste of time. Some of you think bias training is just political correctness. He paused. Several doctors shifted uncomfortably in their seats. 3 months ago, I would have been one of you, Marcus continued. I thought I was a good person. I thought I treated everyone equally. I thought bias was something that happened to other people, in other places. He clicked to a slide showing Aisha Williams' medical chart. Then I discovered that one of my doctors sent this woman home while she was having a heart attack. And when I investigated, I found 15 other cases just like hers. 15 black patients who received inadequate care. And I had to ask myself, how did I miss this? How did I let this happen? The room was completely silent now. I missed it because I wasn't looking, Marcus said. I missed it because I was comfortable. I missed it because admitting there was a problem meant admitting I had failed. But the truth is, we all failed. Every single person in this hospital who knew something was wrong and didn't speak up. Every person who noticed a pattern and explained it away. We all failed. He clicked to the next slide. It showed statistics about health disparities. Black women were 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related complications. Black patients received less pain medication than white patients with the same injuries. The numbers went on and on. These aren't just statistics, Marcus said. These are real people. People who trusted us. People who came to us for help. And we let them down. Over the next 4 hours, the staff went through intensive training. They learned about implicit bias. They learned about microaggressions. They learned about the history of racism in medicine, including horrific experiments done on black people without consent. It was uncomfortable. Some doctors argued. Some got defensive. But slowly something began to shift. People started to listen. They started to share their own observations. Dr. Patricia Lee raised her hand. I've noticed that I'm more likely to believe pain reports from patients who look like me. I never realized it before, but now I can't unsee it. A nurse named Thomas spoke up. I've heard other staff make comments about certain patients being difficult or non-compliant. Now I wonder if those labels were really about the patients or about our own biases. The conversation continued. It wasn't always easy. There were arguments. There were tears. But it was real. At the end of the day, Marcus felt exhausted but hopeful. This was just the beginning, but it was a start. Meanwhile, other changes were happening throughout the hospital. Carol Henderson, the hospital administrator, had created a new position, Director of Health Equity. They hired Dr. Keisha Williams, a black physician who had spent years studying health disparities. Dr. Williams's first task was to analyze the hospital's patient data. She looked at outcomes by race, looking for patterns. What she found was troubling but not surprising. Black patients at Riverside General had longer wait times in the emergency room. They received pain medication less frequently. They were more likely to leave against medical advice, which often meant they didn't feel heard or respected. Their mortality rates for treatable conditions were higher. Dr. Williams presented her findings to the board. Unlike 3 months ago, this time they listened. These disparities are killing people, Dr. Williams said bluntly, and they're destroying trust in our hospital. We need systemic change, not just training. What do you recommend? Gerald Thompson asked. Dr. Williams had a list ready. First, we need to track quality metrics by race. If we're not measuring it, we can't fix it. Second, we need to hire more diverse staff at all levels. Studies show that patients have better outcomes when they're treated by doctors who look like them. Third, we need community outreach. We need to rebuild trust with the black community. That will cost money, David Wu pointed out, though his tone was less resistant than before. Not doing it will cost more, Dr. Williams replied, both in lives and in lawsuits. Besides, it's the right thing to do. The board approved her recommendations. Slowly, the hospital began to change. They created an anonymous reporting system where staff could flag concerning patterns in patient care. They established a patient advocacy council that included community members, not just hospital employees. They partnered with local black churches and community organizations to provide health education and screening. Aisha Williams became a central part of these efforts. She joined the Patient Advocacy Council. She helped develop training materials. She shared her story with new medical students, helping them understand the real-world impact of bias. One afternoon, Aisha was invited to speak to a group of first-year medical students. She stood in front of the lecture hall feeling nervous. These young people look so eager, so ready to save the world. My name is Aisha Williams, she began. And I'm alive today by luck, not because of good medical care. She told them her story. She watched their faces as she described being dismissed, being sent home, collapsing on her kitchen floor. Some students looked shocked. Others looked guilty, as if they were already imagining themselves making the same mistakes. I don't tell you this story to make you feel bad, Aisha said. I tell you this story because you have a choice. You can be the doctor who sees me as a person, or you can be the doctor who sees me as a statistic. You can be the doctor who listens or the doctor who assumes. The choice is yours. A student raised her hand. How do we make sure we don't make the same mistakes? How do we recognize our own biases? You start by admitting they exist, Aisha said. Everyone has biases. Everyone. The doctors who hurt me probably didn't think they were racist. But their biases still affected their decisions. So you have to constantly question yourself. Ask yourself, am I really listening to this patient? Or am I making assumptions based on how they look? Another student spoke up. What if we're not sure? What if we think someone might be exaggerating but we're worried about being biased? Then err on the side of belief, Aisha said. Run the tests. Do the work. Because the cost of missing something serious is so much higher than the cost of being overly cautious. The students nodded, taking notes. Aisha felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this generation would be different. Marcus Chen watched from the back of the lecture hall. He thought about how much had changed in 3 months. The hospital was different now. Not perfect, but better. But he also knew the work was far from over. Changing an institution took years, not months. There would be setbacks. There would be resistance. But they had to keep trying. After Aisha's talk, Marcus walked with her to the cafeteria. How are you feeling? He asked. Physically, I mean. How's your heart? Better, Aisha said. I'm in cardiac rehabilitation. I take medication every day. I'll probably have some permanent damage. But I'm alive. I'm glad, Marcus said. And he meant it. Not just because Aisha's survival had exposed the problems at his hospital, but because she was a remarkable person who deserved to live. Can I ask you something? Aisha said. Do you think Dr. Hutchinson will ever understand what he did wrong? Marcus thought about it. Hutchinson had filed a lawsuit against the hospital, claiming wrongful termination. He was still insisting he had done nothing wrong. Honestly, probably not, Marcus said. Some people are so committed to their worldview that they can't see the truth, even when it's right in front of them. That's sad, Aisha said. Yes, Marcus agreed. But we can't control him. We can only control what we do moving forward. They sat down at a table. Marcus pulled out a folder. I wanted to show you something. Remember those 15 patients I found? The ones who received inadequate care from Hutchinson? Yes, Aisha said. We've been reaching out to them, apologizing, offering to review their cases. 8 of them have agreed to join the Patient Advocacy Council. They want to help make sure this doesn't happen to others. Aisha smiled. That's wonderful. It was your example, Marcus said. You showed them that speaking up matters, that their voices matter. Over the following weeks, the changes continued. The hospital implemented a new protocol. Every emergency room patient who reported chest pain got a full cardiac workup, regardless of age or appearance. Wait times were monitored by race, and staff had to explain any disparities. They also started publishing their quality metrics publicly. It was scary to be transparent about their problems, but it also created accountability. The local newspaper ran a follow-up story. Hospital works to rebuild trust after discrimination scandal. The article was fair, noting both the problems and the efforts to fix them. Community response was mixed. Some people remained angry and distrustful. Others appreciated the hospital's transparency. Slowly, very slowly, patients started coming back. Angela Thompson, the nurse who had first tried to warn Marcus about Hutchinson, was promoted to a new position, clinical practice advocate. Her job was to support staff who noticed concerning patterns and wanted to report them. I never thought I'd see this day, Angela told Marcus one afternoon. A hospital actually taking racism seriously. We should have taken it seriously from the beginning, Marcus said. When you came to me a year ago, I should have listened. You're listening now, Angela said. That's what matters, but not everyone was happy with the changes. Several senior doctors complained that the new protocols were too time-consuming. A few even left to work at other hospitals. Good riddance, Dr. Keisha Williams said when she heard. If they're not willing to adapt, they shouldn't be practicing medicine. 6 months after Hutchinson's firing, Marcus met with Aisha again. They sat in his office, the same place where their journey had begun. "I've been thinking about something," Aisha said. "All of this happened because I survived. Because I got a second chance and decided to fight. But what about all the people who didn't survive? What about all the patients who died because doctors didn't believe them?" Marcus felt the weight of her words. She was right. For every Aisha Williams who survived and spoke out, there were probably dozens who hadn't been so lucky. "We can't bring them back," Marcus said quietly, "but we can honor them by making sure it doesn't happen again." "How do we do that?" Aisha asked. "We keep working," Marcus said. "We keep fighting. We keep making it uncomfortable for people to ignore these problems. And we never ever stop." Aisha nodded. She looked at Marcus with an intensity that made him sit up straighter. "Promise me something." "What?" "Promise me that 10 years from now this hospital will be a place where every patient, regardless of their skin color, gets the same excellent care. Where no one has to wonder if their doctor believes them." Marcus thought about all the work ahead, all the resistance they would face, all the ways they could fail, but he also thought about Aisha, lying on her kitchen floor, fighting for every breath. He thought about all the patients who had suffered in silence. "I promise," he said. "I can't guarantee we'll be perfect. We're all human. We'll make mistakes. But I promise we'll never stop trying to do better." Aisha reached out and shook his hand. "Then let's get to work." As Aisha left his office, Marcus stood at his window and looked out at the hospital below. Ambulances came and went. Doctors and nurses rushed between buildings. Patients arrived, hoping for healing. The hospital looked the same as it had 6 months ago. But everything was different now. The change wasn't visible from the outside, but it was real. Marcus thought about the long road ahead. He thought about the resistance they would face from people who didn't want to change. He thought about how easy it would be to slip back into old patterns. But he also thought about Aisha's courage, about Angela's persistence, about all the patients who had trusted them enough to share their painful stories. He couldn't let them down. Not again. Marcus turned back to his desk where a stack of reports waited for him. Quality metrics by race, patient satisfaction surveys, training schedules, hiring plans. The work was overwhelming. But for the first time in months, Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. They couldn't undo the past. They couldn't bring back the patients they had failed. But they could build a better future. One policy at a time, one doctor at a time, one patient at a time. It wouldn't be easy. It wouldn't be fast. But it would be worth it. Marcus picked up his pen and got back to work. There was so much to do, and he was ready.